So I think FTX has accelerated some trends that were already there. So I think what we're increasingly going to see in the major markets is regulators saying, look, if you want to serve my citizens, we want you here, registered, onshore, and licensed. The industry is started in a place where a lot of it was offshore, a lot of it was unregulated, and I think increasingly, what we're going to see is, so exchanges like ours getting licensed in the major markets. It was FTX was somewhat of a wake-up call. We're seeing regulators being somewhat more cautious than they were. But as I say, I think in the broader scale of things, it's really just accelerating trends that were going to be there already. If you look at the regulatory approaches, they started with AML. So particularly in the US, where exchanges were regulated as money transmitters, and the AML framework was applied, and that was the starting point here in Singapore as well. But I think what people have realised, and FTX just illustrated this, is that AML is just one part of the picture, and the areas that people are looking at now are around consumer protection and market integrity, and those are important areas which I think are going to need to be covered by a comprehensive regulatory framework. It's a young industry, it's a developing industry, and the frameworks that apply are still being developed, and people are still working out what that should look like. So we've seen some smaller jurisdictions sort of start with examples of a comprehensive crypto regulatory framework, and then MiCA, which is coming into force in the EU probably in a couple of years. That's probably the first attempt, really, by a large market to try and introduce something that's tailored for crypto and that covers all of the elements. And then hopefully we see other markets like the US following that in due course. Because people talk a lot about sort of same risk, same regulation, and it's true that a lot of the risks in a centralized crypto institution are very similar to the risks that you would see in a traditional finance centralized institution. You're still trusting human beings with your money, and that's what we saw in FTX. When you trust a centralized entity with your assets, there are risks around people misusing those assets. So there's elements in which the risks in crypto, certainly centralized crypto, is the same as TradFi, and there are elements in which the framework needs to be tweaked, and simply taking the rules that apply to traditional finance and trying to apply those wholesale to crypto without any changes, that's not going to be effective, and that's not actually going to really get to the underlying risks. Yeah, so proof of reserves is an example of one of the differences between TradFi and crypto. So, in a traditional institution, you can't see what the assets that are in there. You have to rely on auditors or third parties to attest that. In crypto, you can see what's on chain. And so proof of reserves was something that was an industry initiative. We and a number of our competitor exchanges came out with proof of reserves quite quickly after FTX, and it was an industry initiative to show that there are tools within crypto that can help reassure customers and that can improve customer protection. I think probably going forward we will see some elements of that adopted into regulation as well. But it was initially an industry initiative. We are on a journey as an industry, and to figure out what a sensible, comprehensive framework looks like, and to get that in place. The danger would be if we overreacted to FTX. and if we put in place rushed, knee-jerk responses that actually weren't the right things long term. I mean, the encouraging thing though is what we're seeing in almost every jurisdiction is we're seeing the regulators consult with industry to, come up with proposals, but then put them out for industry consultation and have a dialogue and a discussion about what makes sense. So that the MAS did that here towards the end of last year. Hong Kong just came out with their proposals, the same in the UK. Vara in Dubai are consulting on there. So yeah, I think that's the important thing, is that there's a dialogue between industry and regulators, so we get to a place that's sensible.